Testing, microphone check. What's up, everybody? I haven't made any videos for a while, but I really want to make some more esoteric worldview videos soon here. I've got a bunch in my mind, so stay tuned for that, hopefully. Anyway, George Zimmerman just got acquitted of all charges on second-degree murder, of course, because he didn't commit second-degree murder. There's no chance in hell he was going to be found guilty of that, and the prosecution didn't deliver any evidence whatsoever, just went entirely on this grindingly tedious emotional rampage of saying, oh, he's so evil, and oh, little Trayvon, he only had a bag of Skittles and tea, etc., etc. So they weren't really going so far with that in the first place, whereas the defense had O'Mara and West, which are, great defense attorneys, presented all the evidence flawlessly, and even took over the prosecution's witnesses and turned them against the prosecution and used them for the defense marvelously. So I wanted to make a couple comments on this case because I've been watching it from start to finish pretty much, and I think it's a case which exposes a lot of the hypocrisy and a lot of the ignorance that goes on in America. Not that America isn't known for being hypocritical and ignorant, so go figure. From the get-go, it was clear that they weren't going to get a second-degree murder charge. The only reason that they're trying to go for a second-degree murder charge is because the original state prosecutor, she withheld evidence and was convicted for withholding evidence. She was charged for withholding evidence, and she didn't get to participate in the trial because of this. In order to secure her re-election in the county where she was at, and in order to hype this thing up and to make it look like Zimmerman was this big bad monster. We went on for months and months and months and months and months when this thing first started, hearing about how Zimmerman was such a monster and he killed this poor little black kid, this white guy, this white monster, killing this poor little black kid for no reason, and blah, 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 blah. All the media was going crazy, especially on the left-wing side, were going crazy, painting Zimmerman out to be this huge monster, and oh my God, it's like the old KKK back in the South, and going absolutely apeshit. And what came out in the case? None of that was true. None of that was true. Did he follow Trayvon Martin? Yeah. Was he suspicious because there had been burglaries in the neighborhood and he saw someone, a black kid that he didn't know, who looked suspicious to him? Yeah, he sort of followed that kid. He backed off, of course. He backed off when the police officer told him to, and he didn't follow him all the way down the street, but he sort of followed him a little bit, kept his distance and called the police and was waiting for them to come. Did he profile the kid? Yeah, and what? The police do it every goddamn day. Go look at the crime statistics. White people aren't offing white people on record numbers. Period. It's as simple as that. Blacks account for a larger percentage of the prisoner population. Blacks account for a larger percentage of criminal, street-level crimes. That's just a fact. Are all black people criminals? Absolutely not! People who have to think in extremes like that are children. They're children. If you can't think rationally without slipping into the extremes of that kind of thought, then you have the mentality of a little child. Or if you're going to call me racist because I stated a simple fact, you have the mentality of a little child. I call it like I see it. That's it, period. So did he profile Trayvon? Yeah, but you know what? That's not illegal. Did he sort of follow Trayvon? Yeah, but you know what? That's not illegal either. You know what was illegal? Was when Trayvon walked up to Zimmerman, said, hey, you got a problem? Zimmerman said no. And he said, you got one now, and punched him in the face. That was illegal. And what did Trayvon say before that he punched this guy in the face? He was on the phone. We know from witness testimony, or not witness testimony, but I guess witness testimony you would say, of Rachel Gentile. What did Trayvon say? This creepy ass cracker is following me. So who's profiling? Yeah, everybody profiles each other. We just tend to do it. It's just a thing that we do. Doesn't mean that every person of one, specific race or culture or religion is representative of every other person, is representative of the whole thing. Doesn't mean that. But profiling is something that we do, whether subtly or not so subtly, all the time. So, and people talking about racism is just complete bullshit. And, by the way, George Zimmerman isn't even white. George Zimmerman is Hispanic and Jewish. Face palm, face palm, face palm. This is the bullshit of this kind of media sensationalized case, which just became blown out to astronomical degrees of bullshit. Zimmerman, Hispanic, self-identified Hispanic person. But that doesn't make a super sensationalized, high ratings, controversial media story, does it? So the media blew this thing way the hell out of proportion and made it seem like it's a case of this mean, evil, skinhead, KKK, racist George Zimmerman versus this sweet, cute, innocent little Trayvon who didn't do nothing wrong ever. Oh, he was a little angel. People actually were talking like this. Maybe that's because in the media they're using pictures of him when he was like 13, 12, 11 years old, looking like a little kid, photoshopping it up and doctoring it up, making him look all like an angel. Where you can find pictures of Trayvon where he's going like this to the camera, pictures of him where he's got a gun and smoking weed. You can see his cell phone records where he's talking about, shooting people, busting a cap in your ass and stuff like this. So he wasn't no precious little angel. So that needs to get out of people's heads also. You see this fantasy that they've created in people's minds. It's just mind-boggling. They've really brainwashed people, especially liberals, have become completely just brainwashed. Actually, you know what? I used to self-identify as a liberal. But this case is largely responsible for me turning away from left-wing liberal type thought and seeing the reality of what's going on in this country. That all this liberal propaganda has an agenda which is anti-white, anti-establishment, anti-anything traditional American, patriarchal, whatever. Anti-male, anti-anything which is establishment and traditional, white, nuclear type of existence. Nuclear family. It is just completely biased against it. So, oh my God, a white man killed this black kid in the headlines and everybody's going apeshit. It's bullshit. It's absolute nonsense. So, because the media over-sensationalized this story from the get-go, the prosecution actually was hampered in their approach. They had to try to prove second-degree murder, which is absolutely impossible because the situation, they might have been able to get manslaughter at best, but in Florida they have this stand your ground law where you're able to defend yourself if you're attacked. So the media still is spinning this story like as if Trayvon didn't attack Zimmerman first. All of the evidence points to this fact. I don't care how much of your feelings don't like it, but all of the evidence points to the fact that Zimmerman was attacked by Trayvon Martin, that he was being beaten repeatedly, he was having his head smashed against the pavement, and he had no other recourse but to use his firearm, which Trayvon tried to take from him, by the way, and defend himself. I'm sure he wasn't glad about it. You could see his face afterwards. There's no signs of an evil, racist, white killer. By the way, again, I remind you, he's Hispanic. He looks completely Hispanic. Doesn't look white at all. Mixed, if you want to say something, but he's not white. So he is at no point in these pictures of afterwards of him killing Trayvon is he looking like he enjoyed the experience whatsoever. So he's not evil. He might have been a little overzealous, but that's not illegal. The crime and all of the, stuff like this where he lives in Florida is out of control. And it's getting this way in a lot of parts of the country. So, what are you going to do? It's bullshit. We shouldn't be intimidated by, thugs walking the street. Not that Trayvon necessarily was a thug, but there's a lot of people, especially black people, where that person is from, who walk around acting tough like that. Trust me, in my high school where I went to, there would be a bus of about 500, 600 black kids from East Palo Alto, which is one of the worst ghettos in the Bay Area. High murder rate, lots of gangs and stuff like this. I know what the culture is in these kind of areas. I'm not blaming people genetically for being predisposed to that kind of behavior necessarily, but in those kind of areas, it's a breeding ground for that kind of bullshit mentality. So, what are we supposed to just sit down and take it in the butt from these kind of thug type people? No, we should be able to defend ourselves. It's an unfortunate thing what happened with George Martin and Trayvon, and again, I'm not saying that he's necessarily like those kids, but when you have that kind of culture and it goes on unquestioned, and it just perpetuates and perpetuates, you get to a point where you carry a gun in your neighborhood to protect yourself and to keep crime down. And that's what point Zimmerman was at when this altercation happened. And the media takes that out of context and acts like he's just some maniac, lone gunman, wannabe cop. As if that's a bad thing that he wants to be a cop. Cops, please, try calling a crack dealer next time that you get in trouble. Cops are a necessary force in the country. Cops aren't bad. All cops anyway. There's some that abuse their power, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. They're acting like him wanting to be a cop is such an evil thing. It's nonsense. So, now he's acquitted, of course, because the defense did a wonderful job to prove the evidence which was presented, that he was not guilty of second-degree murder. But yet still you had the prosecution ripping into Zimmerman, screaming and making a huge scene in the courtroom and getting everybody on edge and, calling him all sorts of names and trying to paint his character and destroy his character and slander him and playing on emotions is what they're doing. That's what the media has been doing, and that's what all of these liberal, left-wing biased people in the news are doing. I actually had to watch freaking Fox News, which I hate Fox. I had to actually watch Fox News to get some actual unbiased reporting on the case. How sad is that? So anyway, now that the acquittal's been read out, we have all this rage exploding. I've already seen on Twitter reports that there's been a white man killed in New York and 3 white people killed in Florida. I just read that on Twitter. Really? Really? That's justice for Trayvon? Killing white people when Zimmerman wasn't even white? See, this is what the media does. Divide and conquer. And it's goddamn bullshit and brainwashes people. Think for yourselves, people. Throw the political correctness out the window. It's time we threw political correctness away. And the scourge of brainwashing by the media who plays on this political correctness in order to divide our society, in order to create chaos and confusion. Think for yourself, white man and black man. Think for yourself. Don't let these assholes do your thinking for you. So, in conclusion, yeah, it's messed up that a kid got killed. Either way, that's always bad. That's always, not good. But the reason why I become so hard-hearted and mad about this whole thing is because of all the flood of idiots who are making this into some huge civil rights issue when it has no bearing to that at all. This is just an unfortunate incident. They happen all the time. This is just an unfortunate accident. Happens all the time. It's not a civil rights issue. And that's the only reason I become so mad and worked up about this thing, is because of all of the pseudo self-righteous assholes who are going around making this into a race issue, talking about hating whitey and all the white guilt, all the bullshit. That's what's made me so livid about this thing. But, I hope that Trayvon Martin as a person rests in peace, or goes to heaven, or gets a good, rebirth or whatever. And I hope people will not riot and cause further violence and insanity over something which is already violent and insane. We don't need more of it. But in the same token, like I said, I can't stand this hypocrisy. Can't stand it. Hypocrisy that just goes on pretending to be so self-righteous when it is neither here nor there.